I have a special theory about Trump, which I really don't like if I'm right about this. I really don't enjoy it, but I think it's what he is after. I think that Trump has understood the dynamics on the left, on the Democrat Party, and he has understood, particularly in that Howard Schultz presidential candidacy, that there will be a fight between the center and the far left, and that ultimately the Democrat Party may be abandoning itself to its far left wing. I think that Trump is making a bet where he will not need the far right to win the election. He wants to conquer territory at the center and even on the center left of the political spectrum. And my theory is that Trump is making the long shot bet that in 2020, he will need the liberals on his sides to win, and he's going to try to do it. That's why the State of the Union address could have been a Democrat president speaking about how women are, he has the most women employment and the most minority employed ever. Those are the words of a center leftist Democrat. I think that Trump has decided that he would outdo Howard Schultz in dominating the center and gaining even Democrat adherents who will be pushed out of the Democrat Party by its far left TYT type wing.
That is terrifying. I hope you're not right, but it's so out there that you probably are. I mean, he is a boomer, and a lot of them tend to think that we're still on the stage where we can just negotiate, we can work it out, and he is the negotiator. So I think he probably is working from a standpoint where he still genuinely believes that we can compromise with these people and find center ground. So he might be going for that center base. But to me, that just sounds like Jeb Bush wanting to go after the based blacks.
Civic nationalism is destined to failure because of biological...
Whoa, check out this based black guy with the Trump hat. The Democrats are the real racists.
No, we are.
No, not going to work. Go after the base who originally voted for you, and that was overwhelmingly white people. But as we saw in the State of the Union address, did he mention white people once? He mentioned black employment, he mentioned women, he mentioned Hispanics, he mentioned Jews and the Holocaust, but he did not go anywhere near how's white employment doing? How are whites doing as far as this or that? You can't touch that with a 10-foot pole. So yeah, I think you're probably right. It could very well be true.
And I'm so afraid of being right. However, I think I'm right. And I think that this is the difference between the approach of going for the based blacks, is that the based blacks don't exist, or they exist in such low frequency that they're not a population that is significant. Trump has understood the dynamics. He's going to go not for the based black, not for the based Asians. He's going to go for the white Democrat Party people who are starting to feel the heat on their far left side. They are starting to feel the hate from their identitarian black and identitarian minority LGBT wing, and he's going to offer them a reasonable outcome, a reasonable desire for something like a centered American dream. And he's going to charm most of them, and he's going to win 2020 with a program that will look like a Democrat Party program.
Like everybody talks about the South Africans saying, you guys need to get out of there. You need to claim refugee status, actual refugee status, and get out of there.
I mean, the South Africa example is absolutely beautiful because it illustrates what really happens in white genocide. It's that there's no point at which everyone leaves. There's just going to be a nuclei that will die there because it's really into people's heart and into people's genes to be attached to their lands. And there's just people for whom the cost of leaving is something that their brain will never like doing. And they're going to be ready to die on place, on location. Liberal local officials have veto power over the wall. Actually, on second thought, it's likely that not a single mile of fence will be built. Section 232A of this bill states that prior to use of any funds made available by this act for the construction of physical barriers, the Department of Homeland Security shall confer and seek to reach mutual agreement regarding the design and alignment of physical barriers within that city. With whom must the feds consult? The local elected officials. Now you can understand the brilliance of limiting the wall to the Rio Grande Valley. These are the most liberal counties on the border, thanks to demographics of open border itself. And there is practically no local official who support the wall in these counties. In other words, this bill creates a system of reinforcement whereby the more a city is liberal, the less you can build a wall, and therefore you don't have a wall, therefore you have more illegal immigration, therefore it becomes more liberal.
That's why lately I've been focusing a lot more on like community building and things of that nature, because we're going to need each other as these as more and more cities become sanctuary cities and our cities just get flooded. Because if anything, this is an encouragement. It's an encouragement to people to come over the border now. I don't think Trump even realizes what he's done.
And the claim of being linked to a child who has been taken by the ICE people will be enough to delay your exportation back to your country. So that is absolutely terrible. It gives a loophole for anyone doing child trafficking. This bill adds another $40 million for the Alternatives to Detention program, which moves asylum seekers to facilities in the interior of the country, where they are usually released.
See, that's what scares me when they say they're moving them to the interior of the country. That's where you get these random beheadings and such in places like Idaho and Ohio and Missouri and these middle areas. I think their whole plan is to just flood these small white towns with migrants. Just flood them. Anywhere where there's a large white demographic, they're just going to flood them. And it's outrageous when you think about how the left was falling for these stories about ISIS putting children in cages. Yeah, that totally happened.
Number 5, doubling low-skilled workers. This bill doubles the number of H-2B non-agricultural unskilled seasonal workers who will continue to be a public charge on America. This gives you a glimpse of what is driving this amnesty bill on the Republican side. If you double that kind of immigrants, you double, essentially, those are the Mexican migrants that can be, for example, hired in farms to collect cucumbers, that kind of stuff. The problem is that there is no mechanism that the U.S. has, and I know because I've been a migrant in the U.S. at some point in my life. I lived 5 years there. There is no mechanism for kicking someone after a visa is over. So they will enter with their H-2Bs, but you have no guarantee. You are literally trusting people to leave the country. Some of them will find ways to work illegally, to work under the table, and you will be increasing the problem of illegal presence in the U.S.